Sai Ram. Thank you, Greg, for the beautiful introduction and such a nice and setting the stage so lovely for me to share a few thoughts. I want to thank all of the organizers for this beautiful opportunity to reflect and share with fellow devotees. Saint Vallabhacharya, when he wrote the Madhurastakam, in there he describes the sweetness of the Lord. His form is sweet. His actions are sweet. His gait is sweet. His words are sweet. And I think of that. I think of that often when I reflect on Swami's words. Every word of his, every sentence of his is filled with such beautiful nectar of sweetness that it's almost overwhelming. It's just wave and wave of Ananda when we begin to fully internalize and understand them. And for me, that has been a very, very beautiful journey. I realized how much depth is there in every sentence of his. When I grew up with Swami through Bal Vikas, through SSE, and over time I had learned a lot of quotes. I learned to parrot them. I would memorize entire segments of discourses, and that was all nice and good as a child, as a youth, and I think it probably, in some ways, probably fueled my spiritual snobbery, as I lovingly call it. I could recite this, I could recite that. But, Swami has his beautiful ways. He burst the bubble a few years ago when I found myself trying to explain Swami's words. I found myself trying to explain Swami's quotes to someone that didn't have a whole lot of context. There was no common context. And it was a colleague at work. And even though he was of Indian background, we were talking something one day, and I said something to the effect of, I don't remember the exact things, but I said something to the effect of something about liberation. And he said, "What's liberation?" I said, "Well, it's the sort of the ending of the cycle of birth and death." And he's like, "But why would I want that? I like my life." So I was like, gosh, that's such a fundamental question. I don't know how to answer that question. And then I found myself working with this group of people that, for various reasons, where I ended up trying to share Swami's teachings, but I didn't have a language to communicate with them. Because all of my examples would be like, Swami says this, Swami says that. But that's useful for someone that has the same context. But when they don't have the context, how do I reach out to them? And so that began a sort of a journey. He said, well, you know what? If obviously whatever he says is the absolute truth, that I know in my heart. But if I can't convey that to someone in a way that they can understand, that's a limitation. That's my limitation, not the limitation of his message. So I need to figure out how to really understand what it is that he's saying, and not just in a way that I can recite it to a Sai brother or sister, but in a way that I can recite it to any person on the street. How would I do that? And so that began a journey that I can only offer my eternal gratitude to Swami for, because had that thought never occurred, had I not had those set of experiences, I probably would not have pursued this search. But through that search, I've learned to actually understand the depth a little bit more. And that probably has been the greatest gift, the sweetness of his words. Let me give you some examples. It's the time of, I had read the story of Ramayana multiple times as a child through SSC, even enacted on a couple of plays about that were based off of Ramayana. And I understood the entire story. I could recite it even as a young child. But only upon reflecting about a change that I was going through in my life, it occurred to me about what Rama must have been going through. Here he was, it was a normal day, and then he was called to go meet his father Dasharatha and all the court. And he was told that he would be coronated the next morning. It's a bit of a sudden thing. I mean, he was obviously heir to the throne, but it was a bit sudden. And in fact, Rama asks, is it necessary to do it so quickly, or something to that effect? And but the elders tell him, no, this is a good time. This is the right time to do it. So he says, okay. So he's now suddenly, the whole kingdom is in celebration mode and in planning for this big coronation the next morning. There's all kinds of activity going on. And he has to get a good night's sleep, and first thing in the morning, he's going to be coronated. And over the course of the next few hours, he finds out that his mother Kaikeyi is unhappy, that his father's that there's something going on, and he goes and he finds out that, forget about being coronated, he's being asked to leave the kingdom for 14 years. He's being banished effectively from the kingdom for 14 years. And he's not fazed by the first, nor he's fazed by the second. In fact, so much so that Lakshmana, who overhears the conversation, is furious. He's just just angry and seething with all kinds of things that he's just trying to blurt out. And Rama says, Lakshmana, why do you get so anxious? Can you not see that when things that are so unnatural happen, that is the way, that means that there's divine play here. Can you not accept it as that? And just thinking about that and sort of reflecting that and applying that to my own life, what would happen if what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life turned into something completely different? How would I react? Forget about something like that, but even for small things, how do I react? And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I actually don't do very well. Even small changes, I don't handle very well. Something small unexpected happens. I was going to planning to do X, and instead I ended up having to change Y. My gosh, I'm actually pretty bad at embracing change. So that led a whole journey of trying to figure out how do I embrace change, and why do I get so caught up in the moment, and why is it that I can't step back and take whatever comes as a gift of Swami. And it seems very, very relevant. I actually found myself talking about this quite a bit recently to the children, because we all had to go through phenomenal change over the last few months because of this pandemic. Coronavirus changed how we think, how we operate on a daily basis. And so we all had to go through change. And it's not that we really had a choice. The virus just forced a bunch of things. At workplace, I remember for the longest time, we used to have debates on what percentage of the team can be remote and you can still maintain the culture, and how many of them need to be local. And we would have these ratios of this many can be remote, this many have to be in town. At the headquarters, well, we all became remote workers overnight. The world didn't stop. Why were we so worried about it earlier? And it kind of just helped sort of revisit the whole thing of, wait, why did we have all these constraints or restrictions to ourselves before about what percentage needed to be remote or local? That's just one example. Individual lives. Children, when they first got out, they were like, yay, no school for a few days. The weeks turned into months, and the children are like, I'm waiting to go back to school. And we had to accept change. So it was change after change after change after change. And and as I was thinking about that, Reverend Chuck Swindoll from, I think he's in Pennsylvania, he said something that I think about often. He said, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. Isn't that such a beautiful way of thinking about it? It's like really 10% is what happens to us, and 90% is all about our reaction. And I think our reaction is determined by our character. It's actually the fact that I was not able to embrace change that well is the signal, is the data point, it's an indicator that, hey, my character needs refinement. I am not able to handle change. So I need to go work on that. And how can I stay calm no matter what happens? And that, of course, leads us to the value of equanimity. So that was one example. And I think it's actually, I keep reminding myself this, and I remind my children this all the time. Both my family as well as all my children at SSC, that embrace change. In fact, if we look back through all of even through modern history, but through all of history, those that embrace change always end up better than those that don't. In fact, we look at all the successful leaders, they're very good at handling change because they have the character to withstand the uncertainty and to deal with the ambiguity that change brings about. So developing the skill to handle change was a very important lesson that I think has helped me countless times. That's just the beginning of it, but Swami always says Ramayana is not a story from ancient times. It is relevant now, here, today, for everyone. And we've all heard Swami's beautiful discourses on it. And as I was thinking about it once, I had the opportunity to actually study all of Swami's works on Rama at one point for a SSC project. As part of that, I was thinking about one day about this story where of Hanuman and Angada and the search party that are looking for Sita. They're at the southern shores of India, and at that, and they have some. They were given some information that Sita may be on the other side in Lanka, so they have to go verify and come back with the news of Sita. And everybody's thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. And Angada is like, maybe I can get there, but I don't know if I have the energy to get back. And suddenly, they remember that, okay, they start talking to Hanuman. And Angada tells him, oh, son of wind god, there is no adventure that you cannot take on. You actually have a lot more power than you believe. You're strong, you're highly intelligent, you're endowed with many, many virtues that you're not aware of. So evaluate yourself, your capabilities, your excellence, and rise to the occasion. And as Hanuman hears all of this, he remembers his own capabilities. And then he suddenly stands up with a quick gesture. Swami describes it beautifully in the Ramakatha Rasavahini. And he says, I shall this instant fly across the ocean to Sri Lanka, figure out the state of Sita, and come back with that information. And he says there's no greater purpose than to serve the Lord. And with such enthusiasm and with such power that he makes that leap, that Swami says the wind from that, the air force from his move, just flattens the trees, and actually it sunk the mountain that he was standing on, or the hill that he was standing on, into the ground. That was the power. But as I was thinking about that story, it occurred to me, wait, this is the story of every one of us, isn't it? This is why Swami said it's timeless, it's eternal. Because isn't that true for every one of us? We are embodiments of the divine Atma. We are the embodiments of love. Swami reminded this how many hundreds of times or thousands of times in his discourses. And that we are that immortal, absolute Atma. Yet we think of ourselves as something small, limited to the capabilities of what we believe to be the capabilities of this body, of this finite living being that we think we are. And we forget our true identity. So in some sense, we always talk about the ego makes people think they're bigger than they are. No, actually, I think it's the other way around. The ego actually makes me think I'm a lot smaller than I really am. And I spend all my time telling myself that I can't do this, I can't do that. As I started reflecting on that, I realized, oh my God, how many times do I tell myself I can't do? And of course, I'm not going to be able to do it because I just said I can't do. And I hold myself back. And what really limits me is me, myself. There's nothing else out there that's limiting me. And as I reflected on that, I realized, oh my God, we are all endowed with this infinite potential, but we just hold ourselves back. And then sharing that with the children, talking to others with that. As I spent more time reflecting on it, I realized how much of, first of all, how much we limit ourselves, but how much more potential that we have if only we don't limit ourselves. And that is something that everybody can connect with. It's not specific to a particular culture. It's not specific to a particular religion. Ramayana is truly timeless, transcends all boundaries, because each one of us have this infinite potential that we don't realize. And so we're all kind of going through this, like this mistaken identity. It's like we see in those movies where the hero or heroine basically has an amnesia. They hit their head or they have amnesia and they don't remember who they are, and they spend the rest of the time discovering themselves. That's our story every single day. We don't realize who we are, and we just keep spending all of our time trying to discover ourselves. And as I reflected on that, it occurred to me that actually, you know what? If this is such a prevalent problem, if you think about it, coronavirus is such a prevalent problem right now that there's all kinds of mechanisms put into place to help people deal with it. Now, if we had such a prevalent problem with every human being just getting their identity confused and unnecessarily limiting themselves, it seems like there should be a series of mechanisms that the saints and sages of the past would have put into place, that our ancestors would have put into place to keep helping us remind ourselves who we are. And what kind of mechanisms are in place? And then I realized, oh, wait, if I think about it, pretty much the teachings of every religion, that's what they teach. They teach us that we are love, we are truth, we are peace. We are not this limited being that we think we are. In fact, every religion conveys that essence. It does it in different ways and different languages, relevant for different times, but that's the essence of every religion. Then, wait, if that's the case, then all the places of worship, the temples, must be for that purpose. And then I started thinking about it. I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've been to the temple and I listen to the, one of the things that we do is when we go to the temple, the priest does the archana. What's he doing? He's basically chanting the 108 names or the 1008 names, depending on which archana. But he's chanting the names of the Lord and he's offering flowers. And as he does that, and one of the traditions is that when we go to the temple, we do the archana. Why? I was thinking about this and I thought, well, there's 108 names. So is the priest trying to remind God what his names are? I mean, I suppose if I had 108 names, I probably need reminders of who they are or what they are. But I don't think that's God's problem. I don't think he needs us to remind him what his names are. What else could be it? I was talking to some people. I was talking to the children, actually. Children are best to kind of brainstorm on these things. And one of the children suggested that, I was told that if we actually do the archana and pray to God, then he will bless us. So essentially, you have to bribe God with a bunch of names and then he blesses you. That sounds a little too narcissistic for Lord. He's much more than that. So that can't be it. What else is it? It's like, why does he need this anyway? So it can't be for him. This is for us. All of these rituals are for us. And then the light bulb went off. Oh my goodness. The reason we chant those 108 names, they're not for God. They're for us. They're there to remind me who I am. I am not this limited individual that I think I am. I am the embodiment of love. I am the embodiment of compassion. My job is to take care of those that cannot take care of themselves. Asahaya sahayaya, apad bandhavaya, dina rakshakaya. These are all adjectives that tell me how I should be, because this is what I am. I am not this limited individual, but I exist to serve humanity. I exist to share love. I exist so that I can see in everyone around us the same divine that I pray, because that is what they are. And in that process of recognizing them, in time, I will discover myself and I will realize myself. So in fact, this exercise that we kind of so mechanically do it at the temple was nothing but an activity set up to remind us who we are and to remind us what the purpose of life is. Every activity that we do is just around that. Such a beautiful and powerful thing. Suddenly everything, so when I bow, or when I do a namaskar to the person in front of me, when I say Sai Ram, we all know that actually I'm bowing to the divine. Yes, because I am reminding myself that this person that I'm talking to is not this individual that my ego makes me think it is. It's not this individual being that I'm looking at. It's actually the divine that's powering this individual. So it's not the external. It's go one level lower. The namaste is just nothing but a reminder to go one level lower. Don't get confused by the external that you're seeing, but think about the powerhouse that's behind this. And that is no different from me, and that is no different from Swami. And suddenly every activity, every task took, every act of devotion took a whole new meaning. When we were doing, as a family, we were doing Satyanarayana Vratam. And then I started thinking about, okay, now let me start thinking about Satyanarayana Vratam from this perspective. What is it doing? What is it doing? And if you think about it, it says we should do it once a month, invite all of our kith and kin and anyone else. And it says that even if you are not invited and you happen to go to a Satyanarayana Vratam, you should feel free to go, and you're implicitly welcome. And it says, share with them. So we perform this puja, and this puja actually is, or this ritual is really, in fact, if you study the ritual, it's mostly most of the ritual is just really about inviting all the different deities, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, and the elements. So it's all of these deities that we invite. We seek them, and then we do the Ashtotram for them. And then we share the prasad with everybody that has come. If you think about it, oh my God, what a powerful exercise it is. First of all, it's telling me that we do it every month, because it's a reminder that we think, okay, in this month I have achieved this, I have achieved this, I have done this, I have done this great work, I have managed to get this thing done. No, I didn't do this by myself. It's the collection of all of the things. If the sun wasn't there to provide the sunshine, if the rain wasn't there to give the water, all the people that go into every single day of my life, if the healthcare workers don't put themselves at the front lines and provide us services, if the grocery store workers, we all might be able to work remotely, but they can't. They have to be there. And if they don't put their lives at risk and provide services, we wouldn't have groceries to eat. I think about every day how many people I rely on for my day-to-day living. And this entire exercise is nothing but a reminder for me that I owe gratitude to all of this, and whatever that I'm able to do is really, I need to share with all of these people, because it's because of them that I'm able to do it. And in that, so we invite all of these people, we invite all the guests that we have, all of our family and friends. We also invite all the deities, and realize that in fact, it's not just the people, but the entire nature is cooperating to help me live and succeed every single day. For all this that they're doing for me, what do I owe them? And more importantly, how much of this can I really claim as myself? Isn't that an ultimate ego check? So every religion, every ritual is an ego shredding process. That's all. It's all ego shredding process. And as I've understood that, suddenly every activity that I did all these years took a new meaning. And it just was so beautiful. Oh my goodness, how much wisdom went into this, how much thought went into this. And it just leaves me with overwhelming bliss, joy. I don't know how else to describe it. And then Swami says, right? And I was reading actually the Bhagavatam, and in that Prahalada, the young lad Prahalada, talks about divinity, and the way that he describes divinity is beautiful. He describes God as the energy that is present in all-pervading atom, in the all-pervading atom. So this is the time and place, and where people didn't understand. Swami said science and spirituality are coming together. And he, in one of the discourses, he said, people didn't understand that, that I am made up of the same elements as the room that I'm sitting in is made up of the same elements that the trees are, and everything on this computer that I'm using. It's all made out of atoms. At this point, we know, science has taught us this. But before people understood this, how are they, they had their own mechanisms, or the saints had their own ways of describing it, but they're all describing the same thing. In fact, in a discourse in 1995 Shivratri discourse, Swami said, atomic energy is present everywhere. It is only when the true character of this atomic power is understood that the power of divine can also be understood. Right? I mean, there's Swami giving us the science of spirituality. So every manifested everything in this manifested universe is composed of atoms. We know that. And the powerhouse of each of those atoms is divine energy. It's such an overwhelming thing. It's like, wow, no wonder we say divinity is in everything. Absolutely. Not just in people, in everything. Suddenly Hislop's story of the saris that cried makes so much more sense. What Swami is showing us is that divinity is present in those saris. Divinities, there is no place that divinity cannot exist. In fact, Swami says one act that God cannot do is to leave someplace and be someplace else, because as long as there is a manifested universe, divinity exists. Now, beyond the manifested universe, I don't unfortunately understand it enough to be able to make any meaningful comment. Even this, it's just learning from Swami's words and understanding the depth of them. So, then it started occurring to me, wait, is divinity just energy? Really? Because that somehow seems to take away I want Swami to respond. Does energy really respond to me? And then I flip the book, and right there, Swami says divinity is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Being, truth. The truth is that every single thing is manifest. It is made up of, everything is made up of atoms. And what's powering each one of those atoms is the divine energy. Okay, so that's the truth. Saying Chit, it has awareness. It's not that it's inert energy. It has the ability to manifest. And it has independent thought. That's what he's saying, awareness and bliss. And when you experience that bliss, that Ananda he said it's waves and waves of Ananda. In fact, he describes it as this endless waves of Ananda that ultimately merge you into divinity when you understand that Ananda. So in the discourse in 2009, New Year's discourse, Swami said, God is Nirakara. He's beyond all names and forms. He takes on a name and form according to the wishes and aspirations of the particular devotee. When you contemplate on the form of Jesus and wish to see him in that form, he manifests before you as Jesus. If you see him as Rama, he will manifest as Rama. So that basically, for me, it was like, oh my goodness, every single thing that I see is made up of that divine energy. Can I live my life with the awareness of that divine energy and not get caught up on what I identify the objects at the external level? And as I start thinking more about that, forget about people, even with objects, my frustration sort of reduces. I'm no longer mad at objects, but more importantly, the whole respecting the environment took a whole new meaning, because every one of those, everything that I see is a manifestation of the divine energy. It's powered by that divine energy. How can I disrespect it? How can I disrespect resources? How can I disrespect food, water, money, the earth? And everything just suddenly just seems so much more beautiful. There's actually Ramadas has this beautiful composition, Anta Ramamayam. Everything is made up of Rama. That suddenly that song took a whole new power, whole new meaning. And just listening to the song, the divine bliss. Oh my goodness, he had understood that everything is made up of this divine energy. And that suddenly changed my perspective on how I see everything, but it changed how I see every person. It's the mind that puts me into this duality of this is, as long as I'm in that duality, the risk is everyone is a friend or a foe. If this person is aligned to me at work, if this person is aligned to my goals, this person is an ally. If this person is not aligned to my goals, this person is a foe. I need to conquer. What a utter foolishness. I felt small. I felt ridiculous when I felt that at work one day. I'm like, why am I doing this? This person is no different. What is it that this person wants? It's not that person is not, just as I'm in my amnesia, that person is also in his amnesia. That person is not out to get me. That person is just trying to go live his life and go get whatever it is, because he's only thinking about himself. He's not really thinking about anybody else, because I'm certainly not thinking about others most of the time. So, okay, then he's just like me. He has the same aspirations, dreams, hopes, agendas, goals, whatever. Then rather than seeing this person as a competition, can I actually go find out what is it that he wants? How can I reach out to this person and see, can I find a path that gives both of us what we're looking for? And suddenly, all of the conflict just melted away, right? Like Swami says, like fog before the morning sun. Ignorance melts away in front of knowledge. And suddenly when this understanding dawned, all conflict just went away. Why am I fighting? What am I fighting? Is this even necessary? And the peace that I felt like, my God, this is powerful. This needs to be, I need to share this with my children. That's the first thing that comes to my mind always is, oh my God, I need to share this with my children, because they get anxious about small things. And with this, all anxiety goes away. I can go on and on and on about examples, but suddenly when we look at this divinity in this absolute sense, then all of the debates about Krishna versus Rama versus Vishnu versus Jesus versus Allah, the comparison and contrast of religions, all that somehow just vanished, because they're all trying to do the same thing, which is they're all trying to help people remember their true identity. And as I was reflecting on this, we were actually planning at the end of the year, what would we do for the the annual day, the end of the year, the sort of commencement exercises for the children. And I said, okay, now, so from what I understand, devotion. And we thought, okay, this is all kind of related to devotion, and the theme was around from Manava to Madhava, from man to divine. So this is really, and I started reflecting on that, and based on what, and suddenly a quote that I had seen so many times before took a whole new meaning when Swami said, man minus mind is equal to God. It's a simple mathematical expression, and we can do all kinds of combinations of that. So we can basically, our man minus ego is equal to God. So, and then we can start actually doing all kinds of things. Okay, God plus ego makes man. So as I started reflecting on that, wait, what we're really saying is that actually the whole process of devotion is a subtractive process, because I am the divine Atma. There's a layer of ego that's been added. That's what this basically says, right? So this divinity, divine, or this divine Atma plus the layer of ego makes man. Okay, so then basically the entire journey from man to divine is just a subtractive process. It's the removal of the ego. It's not that I need to go gain something. I need to just shed something. It's not that made the journey so much easier. Okay, shedding is easier. Gaining, going and gaining, I don't know where I'll find it. I have to keep searching for it. Shedding it is easier. And at least it seemed at that moment. I can't say that I had that clarity last forever, but at that moment, at least it was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. And then I realized, actually, any activity that helps me to shed that layer is essentially devotion. By definition, devotion is simply any action that's performed that helps me shed that layer, or put it differently, as Swami expresses it, any action that is conducted or that is taken in the awareness of the Atmic reality. The Atmic reality is the reality that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not all these physical things that I see, but I am the divine energy. And anything that helps me to realize that, it becomes devotion. And so that was like, wait, oh my goodness, if this is devotion, then what is it that the nine path, the Navavida Bhakti, the 9 forms of devotion that Swami talks about, what exactly is that teaching? That's got to be teaching something around this ego shedding process, or ego shedding process, whichever one. And so that started a whole journey on trying to understand the Navavida Bhakti. And I realized, if I actually look at the 9 forms of devotion, every single one of them is one, it's helping me shed, but there's actually a deeper meaning to it. And as I started reflecting on it, I actually just stepped back and looked at it. I realized, what, actually, this 9-fold, if I think about it, what are the things that I do? First, I listen. So we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, right? We have all of them. But if I step back and look at it, it actually occurred to me, hey, this is how I learn anything. First, I hear about some idea. I like that. I like this idea. So the next thing I'll do is I'll start talking about it and sharing it with everyone. And then I keep it, because as I'm talking more about it, I'm thinking more about it. I'm reflecting on it. Then, as I reflect more and more, I start getting to the essence of it, the identifying the essence, the root. That root, pada, feet, root of the human body, pada sevanam, suddenly took a new meaning. It's trying to get to the root of something. And then from there, I go deeper into it, and I actually start almost worshiping it. Or I go one level lower, and I actually see the divine beauty of it, or the rasa, I don't know, the divine nectar of it. And then as I keep ruminating it more and more, it becomes an integral part of me. And that's what Archalam is. It's that constant rumination. It's an integral part of me. And then we can get consumed by it. We dedicate more and more and more energy. We literally offer ourselves as servitude to the concept. And ultimately it becomes an integral and one part of us. And we enjoy the oneness with it, the Sakyam. This actually is the process of really learning anything that we really put our heart and soul into learning it. This is what it is. Except when we do that in understanding our true identity, then that becomes bhakti. That becomes devotion. And in the end, we reach the Atma Nivedanam. So everything, suddenly that whole thing the whole Navavida Bhakti took a brand new meaning. And we were able to share it with the children in a way that they could connect. But more importantly, it was also in a way that they could communicate to every other classmate of theirs. It doesn't matter who they were. They actually said, the children shared, I have this book that tells each person the superpowers that they have. The Ashtotram is nothing but a book of superpowers. These are the superpowers that I have. This is my real nature. And so when you find out like that, hey, I want to know that book. I want to know what's in that book because I want to discover who I am. And so each of the children picked up one of the names and they said, I'm going to practice this because this is what I am. I'm going to remind myself every single day, this is what I am. And it is very, very adorable. We had a 6-year-old or maybe 7 or 8-year-old. He said, I decided that I'm going to be dependable. I'm going to make sure that whatever I do or whatever I say, I will do because I want to be dependable. So it took a whole new meaning. And what I found is that every time I take the time to understand the depth of Swami's teachings, they take a whole new meaning of their own. And the resulting bliss is what makes me want to keep on going back and reading more. And I've come to a place where every sentence of Swami, it's worth ruminating on it for a whole day because there's so much beauty in it. And I do my entire, whether it's my SSE lessons or whether it's my SSEHV lessons or whether it's, to be honest, a lot of times meetings at work, I have found that one quote of Swami is enough to conduct the whole session. As I think I'm out of time, so I'm going to wrap up with one final example that I shared with a few others, Greg and a few others recently, how this has made a difference in the workplace. I read a quote of Swami that he said, every leader must know his people like their mother and love them more. And this was, as a manager at professional life, this really made me think, what does that mean? What does Swami mean by that? How can I possibly know all my employees like their mother? Do I need to go understand their entire life background? Are they willing to even share that with me? And what does it mean to love them more? Swami himself said that the love of the mother is the highest form of human love. And he's saying, I have to somehow exceed that. How am I going to possibly achieve this? It seems like an impossible bar. But as I started reflecting on it more and more and more, I understood that, I kept thinking, what do I do as a manager? And what does my wife do as a mother with the children? As a manager, when I have some number of people that report to me, I'm always looking at, okay, this person is doing great. I'm going to give them more opportunities because I'm going to grow them. I'm going to give them the greatest rewards. And then this person, on the other hand, is really struggling. I'm going to figure out how to manage them out. That's at least how I used to be. Not very exemplary, but that was the sort of the background that I had come. And as I started reflecting on this quote, this was about 10 years ago, I realized that the mother would never do that. The mother would do the exact opposite. She would say, you know what? This child is doing really well. Excellent. I'm going to let them go. Let them go. They're doing great. And she's there in case they need help, but otherwise she's just going to let them go, spread their wings and fly far. On the other hand, this other child is struggling and she's not ready to give up on the child. She's not ready to give up on any of her children. And while this child might never be able to fly like the other one, but this child has potential and she's not ready to give up, and she will not sleep. She will not rest until that child realizes their potential. My wife always worries about the child that is struggling, not about the child that is doing super well. And as a manager, why don't I do that? Why is it that my ideas are backwards? If I do that, what would the impact of that be? And As I started doing that, what I found was a very interesting side effect. Suddenly, people started turning around. People that were struggling, they felt, I guess they felt this compassion. They felt like somebody was there that cared about them. And they started turning around. And each person, and more important than that, even before that, I started thinking about, what does this person need? Why is this person struggling? And I actually started really looking at that person as an individual, as my own child, and thinking about what is it that they're struggling with and how can I help them with that? And as I started understanding it and I was able to help address whatever it is that they're struggling with, people started turning around to the point it became a bit of a joke at work that, okay, Ananta is the factory that turns all the troubled people into productive people. So they just kept routing everybody that was troubled into my organization. But it was a fantastic growth opportunity for me. I learned to understand how people, what are the things that cause people to trip over, and how they trip over themselves more often than not. And it gave me insights into how I trip over myself all the time. But in that process, it became a sort of a management style that's now generally referred to as heart first management. And this heart first management has actually taken off. I've been asked to talk about it multiple times. I actually do leadership seminars on it. I've been asked to implement it with all leadership at my workplace, to say this heart first management should be how we should be running teams. All of that, and all of that professional success that resulted from one sentence of Swami. That is the power of his words. That is the sweetness of his words. And the most amazing thing that we have, I always think about it. Swami said, there is not, let me tell you that and this is on November 19th, 1981. Swami emphatically stated, let me tell you that nothing is impossible of achievement if an organized society is set on achieving it. We've all read this quote. It's part of the officer's training. But I always think, what if we, as an organized society, set ourselves as our goal nothing short of helping every person discover their innate divinity, or helping every person discover their infinite potential? What a beautiful world that would be. Jai Sai Ram.